The latest BMW M5 is easily the most powerful and the most sophisticated, but is that enough to make it a great M5? Honestly, no. Here's why. The 7th M5 in the series, the G90, is not like other M5s. Yes, it still has a twin-turbo V8 and 4-wheel drive like the last, but this one is a hybrid. That means way more power than any previous M5, faster acceleration and better efficiency, but also much more weight. We'll come back to that shortly.
First impressions then. Well, the very first impression when you start driving is that it's a big car. It really does feel like a sizable machine nowadays, the M5. It takes up a lot of road. You feel like you're sat quite high on a very big kind of armchair. So you immediately get this impression of a big, hefty, chunky, weighty limousine. It almost feels like a limousine. And it feels like a limousine all the way down to the ride comfort. The ride quality, this is quite a bumpy road in places, but the ride is fantastic. It actually feels like a luxury car. It doesn't feel like a 700 horsepower plus performance car. It feels like a luxury car. That's amazing.
You can't fault the quality of the interior, but the design lacks cohesion, and the bewildering drive mode configurability is baffling at a standstill and almost impossible to figure out on the move. The M5 starts at £111,405 in the UK. For that you get 717 brake horsepower and 737 pound-foot of torque.
Yeah, so this is easily the most powerful M5 yet. Almost 100 horsepower more than any other M5, almost 200 pound-foot of torque more than any other M5. Big numbers. And it does feel rapid. It really is quick in a straight line. And that's what hybrid does for you, isn't it? It gives you massive power, massive torque, but also really sharp throttle response. So that motor that lives in the transmission, it just picks up right away. And it means that the instant you put your foot down, the car just surges forward. And the engine, it's a proper M engine, by which I mean, okay, loads of power and torque, but it revs, it really spins out all the way to the top end, close to 8,000 RPM. It's got top end, this thing.
Now we need to have a conversation about weight, because the M5 is clinically obese. At 2,435 kilos, it's the heaviest M5 yet by almost 500 kilograms because of that hybrid system. All that weight means its power-to-weight ratio is actually slightly worse than the last M5s.
Now, credit where it's due, BMW M, they're probably as good as anybody at disguising a car's weight. The current M3, even the M2, they're both quite heavy cars for what they are, but they don't feel it. And it's the same with this M5. Almost 2.5 tons. Certainly with me on board, it weighs 2.5 tons. It doesn't feel it. It does not feel like a 2.5 ton car at all. Actually, like the M2, like the M3, it's got quick, light, sharp steering that makes the car feel very agile, very alert, very responsive. And it's got exceptional damping that takes the lumps and bumps out of the road, but controls the mass of the body really effectively. So those things make this M5 feel way lighter and way more agile than it really is. So yes, if you're as clever as those chassis wizards at BMW M, you can make a heavy car feel much lighter. There's a but coming here. The but is that what you cannot make a heavy car do, and I'm convinced of this, I've driven so many heavy cars recently that feel lighter, but not one of them, including this M5, not one of them manages to be really interactive, right? That's the key thing. That's what makes driving fun, when a car is engaging and interactive and communicative, when it makes you feel a part of the process, when it allows you to sense the grip down at road level, when you can judge and assess how the weight of the car is shifting around. That's what all the best performance cars do. They all make you feel part of the process. In this M5, I really don't. The acid test for an overweight performance car is to drive it on a wet or damp road like we have today, because that's when you realize how little feel there is. When the road surface is slippery, but you can't feel it through the steering or through the chassis, that's when you realize that you're driving quite a numb, quite a remote car, and you tiptoe. You don't have the confidence to lean on the grip because you can't read it. That's all a consequence of the car being too heavy. And so that's what it's like in this M5. It rides really well. The steering is fantastic. It's got great body control, but you can't feel the grip in the wet. So that's my problem with the M5. It's almost freakishly capable, given its size, given its weight, but it doesn't draw you in to the driving experience.
The hybrid system incorporates a substantial 18.6 kilowatt-hour battery that gives an electric-only range of up to 40 miles, with an electric motor in the transmission that can power the car beyond UK motorway speed limits. Working together, the motor and V8 petrol engine thump the M5 to 62 miles per hour in 3.5 seconds and onto a top speed of 189 miles per hour.
So that's the thing about this new M5. The hybrid system gives it masses and masses of power and torque and performance and go, but it also makes it very, very heavy, and that's the thing that stops it from being a really engaging, really rewarding driver's car. Now think back to those six-cylinder M5s of the 1980s and 90s, the E39 M5 with that V8, even the previous one, the M5 CS, that is a spellbinding car. So M5s, even modern M5s, they can be true driver's cars. It can be done, but for now, this one isn't quite up there with them. It's not quite a great M5. So one last question then. Why did BMW M bother with the hybrid system in this new M5 at all? Well, let's go and find Andrew Frankel and have a discussion about that. You want to be a better driver. I know this because everybody who loves cars wants to become a better driver, and I'm going to help you do just that. This is Steve Sutcliffe. He's maybe the best driver that car journalism has ever produced. He once lapped Jenson Button's Formula One car around Silverstone within half a second of the official test driver. He's that good. Steve has written the definitive guide to becoming a more skillful, safer, faster driver for the intercooler, and I'm going to share it with you completely free. All you need to do is click the link on screen or in the description below and enter your name and email address. Over 3 weeks, I'm going to send you Steve's comprehensive guide straight to your email inbox. The eagle-eyed among you will have noticed that there is a second car in this shot. There it is, look, that enormous Bentley over there. We'll come back to the Bentley in a moment. Andrew, in the video I say that this new G90 M5,
yes,
very, very impressive in lots of ways. For me, not quite a great M5 yet. If you want to know what we think is the greatest M5 of them all, back in the summer, we gathered together an example of all 6 generations and decided which one was the greatest of the lot. There'll be a link on the screen here now if you want to go and watch the first of those 2 videos.
Is that going to change now we've driven this one?
You tell me that.
No, it's not.
It's not, is it?
No, it absolutely isn't going to change. It's a car of many qualities.
Yes.
I'm not sure being an M5 is one of them.
Yeah, okay. So what do you mean by that? Do you think it's kind of changed character to its detriment?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this happen with the M5 over the years, hasn't it? They've become more comfortable, more plutocratic, more luxurious, and each one has been a sort of an almost sort of logical progression on from the previous one. But this one is the biggest single leap it's ever taken in that direction.
Wow, you think so?
Towards being a comfortable, long-distance express and away, for me, from being a driver's car, which to me is what that badge on the back should all be about.
So is the issue for you, that figure, 2,435 kilograms, does it ultimately come down to that for you?
It's the 493 kilograms more than its predecessor.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's nearly, I
493?
think it's 493. It's very nearly half a ton.
Yeah.
That's part of it, and it affects everything. But to me, I think there's also, it's not just the weight, which we know has been brought in the most part by the addition of the hybrid system, which no M5 has ever had before. But I also think there's a thought process that has gone on that BMW has identified, that people like the image of an M5, but actually want a car that's just really, really comfortable, with lots and lots of toys on it for getting from place to place, which is exactly what this car is. And it's very, very good at that.
Yeah.
But it's not, to me, what an M5 should be.
So what's it lacking? What's stopping it from being
Driver
a true
interaction.
M5? Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Driver interaction, that's it. It's not like, okay, you know, we have pointed out before that for all its enormous 717 horsepower, its power to weight ratio is actually worse than its predecessor. So it's certainly no quicker, but it's still a monstrously fast thing. You know, no one's going to say that, sorry, it's too slow.
No, no.
But it's that other bit. It's that when you get, do you want to set an alarm, get up early in the morning and go and take that over the decent road? It wouldn't occur to me. And that's such a shame. You know, the last one we drove, which was the M5 CS, and okay, they're not quite the same, you're not quite dealing with like, but that was, you know, a very recent, proper driver's M5.
Absolutely it was.
And
yeah.
maybe there's a CS version this will come
Well,
along,
this
but
is
it's
the question.
hard to see how you're going to do it with that half-ton hybrid sitting in the middle of the
Yeah,
car.
I struggle with that concept.
Yeah.
With previous M5s, there's been a competition version, there's been a CS version, and
Yes.
they sort of turn it up, they turn the dial up and take
Yeah.
a bit of weight out maybe,
Hope so.
and they change the character of the car. But the starting point here,
Yeah.
that almost 2.5 ton weight
Yeah.
figure,
I mean, we can only judge the car that's
Yeah.
in front of us. We
Yeah.
can't speculate as to what may happen at some unspecified date in the future.
Yeah.
And to me, it's, you know, it's probably a technically better car for most people who are interested in buying that kind of car. But what it is not is a greater M5.
So the thing that we have to stress here is that the real reason that BMW chose to go down this route with a hybrid system, which, as we've discussed, adds so much weight to the car, is that, well, A, it allows them to keep the V8 in there, because this all comes down to emissions, right? So with that huge hybrid component, the V8 engine could live on. That's a great thing. But also, because that hybrid component is so significant, officially, this car emits under 50 grams per kilometre of CO2.
And if you believe that,
If you believe, yeah, quite. The way we've been driving it, it's been emitting rather more than that.
yes.
But officially under 50 grams per kilometre of CO2, and that's a magic figure, because if you're a company car buyer and you pay tax on your company car, the M5 becomes massively cheaper. Meanwhile, in some markets where they impose heavy levies on higher polluting cars, the M5 is actually cheaper than the M3. In Ireland, you can buy an M5 for 15,000 euros less than an M3. So there are some real upsides
Yes.
to having that big hybrid component.
Yes.
That's why BMW's done it,
Yes.
but it doesn't make it a better driver's car.
Correct.
That's the long and short of it, isn't it, really?
100%, yeah.
So Andrew, there is a second car
Yeah.
in this shot. This Bentley Flying Spur Speed. Now, ordinarily, an enormous Bentley saloon car and an M5, they would not be seen together in any kind of comparison test.
No.
We've got the Bentley here for a story that we're shooting for the Intercooler online magazine, and that story will be out very soon.
Yeah.
Tell us why we've got these two cars
Well,
together.
because it's interesting.
Yeah.
Because, okay, in one regard, they are still poles apart. There's a £100,000 price difference
Yeah.
between them. But they are both, obviously, four-door saloons. They've both got hybridized twin-turbo V8 engines, four-wheel drive. They've both got over 700 horsepower. I mean, on paper, their performance figures are incredibly close to each other. The BMW is actually wider and taller than
Is
the
it
Bentley.
really? It's a big thing,
Well,
isn't
according
it?
to some figures I just looked up on the
Yeah.
net, yes, absolutely. The Bentley is a bit longer.
Yeah.
So actually, price aside, if you actually look at them in terms of the product, they're remarkably close. And we just thought that rather than wheel out the usual suspects, it would
Yeah.
be a more interesting way of shining light on the M5, really, to put it up against something which people might not necessarily expect.
And the point here about this particular comparison test is that the M5 has, as Andrew's been explaining, changed character slightly. It's become a bit more of a luxury car, dare I say. This is the speed version of the Flying Spur. So is this the most sort of outright sporting four-door Bentley there's been for a long time?
Well, it is. You know, this too has gained a hybrid and has gained quite a lot of weight too. Nothing like as much weight as the M5 has gained, I should add. And in fact, this enormous Bentley and the M5, there's only 60 kilos between them.
That's amazing.
Which is bonkers, really. And if you feel, you know, the sort of the quality of the interior fittings and that sort of thing, you know, the price difference might not surprise you given that. But in terms of the weight, it just feels like a bigger, more substantial, heavier car. But it isn't really. So the point about the Bentley is, yes, it's heavy, but weight isn't just weight. What matters almost as much is where that weight is. And what Bentley have done with this car is they put all of it, all the hybrid drive, the big battery packs behind the rear axle. And you know how Bentleys have always sort of, you know, been 8/10 cars. They've not really been cars for me because they all basically just understeer. This one doesn't anymore. And it's the first Bentley that, you know, certainly the first Bentley saloon I can remember since probably the Mulsanne, that you can actually really sort of hoof about and have some fun with. And dynamically, it's amazingly good, particularly given how heavy it is and how well it rides.
Yeah, so I mean, it says a lot about this new M5 that we've decided to bring a Bentley along and compare the two. You never would have done that with any previous M5, but that's just how this car appears to have evolved. We'll see if there are later versions that ramp up the sort of sporting side of it, but for now, it's a very different kind of M5. Now, thank you ever so much for watching this video. Please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to our channel. That means you never miss one of our videos. And remember, there's a link on the screen here or in the description below where you can sign up to get Steve Sutcliffe's How to Drive series completely free straight to your email inbox. It takes just seconds to sign up with your name and email, and we'll send you that series in full directly to your email inbox. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again soon.